Okay, so Mitch Mahler here with Highlands, and today I got a super special guest that I had the pleasure of meeting several years ago on a trip on a trip somewhere back from on an airplane, and she happened to be sitting beside me, and we got to know each other. So we got Nikola Girke. She's a Canadian sailor. She's on the Olympic team. She's a four-time Olympian, going for her fifth, which is totally amazing. Congratulations on making the fifth. I mean, that's like stands out from so many people right there. Um, you're one of the few elite athletes that says that made the transition between one sport and another. So you've done three different types of events in the Olympics. I mean, that's even crazier. So you mentioned there you got the RSX, which is a windsurfing class, which you've done twice in the Olympics already, and then this one that you're coming up to, you're going to be doing again, which is really, really cool. And then you got the NACO 17, which is a performance catamaran for sailing, and that's a guy-girl combination. Mm-hmm. And so you've done that too. And then there's the 470 is a double-handed monohull planing dinghy with a centerboard, Bermuda rig, and center sheeting, and that's two ladies do that one, two women do that one, right?
Yeah.
So that's amazing. You're graduated from the University of British Columbia, originally from Grand Prairie, Alberta, now living in Vancouver, fairly recently married, like a year or so ago, right? Congratulations to that again. That's awesome. So my wife and I have our 30th anniversary coming up this year, so it's amazing how fast time flies, right? So welcome, and thanks for pulling some time aside to be able to talk to me.
Thank you, and good morning, Mitch.
Yeah. So at what stage of your life did it become like a dream to become an Olympian? Like, was that something you did as a child, or was it just something that just happened?
I think the Olympian part kind of just happened. Well, with a lot of hard work, of course, involved.
Right.
But it was never my burning desire when I was a kid to go to the Olympics. But I started sailing when I was 8 or 9 years old. Absolutely loved it. And when you love it, you do it all the time. And when you do it all the time, you tend to get better a little bit.
Yes.
And so I started racing. And of course, when you're having fun and then you're getting better and then you start winning some things, it gets even more exciting. And so you kind of just climb up through the ranks, the local ones, the BC, youth, nationals, all of that. And at some point, probably in the international youth circuit, it was like, wait a second, there is the Olympics out there, and how cool would that be? And the path is never straight from A to B. So a lot of things derailed in that time. I took a 6-year hiatus from sailing altogether, and ended up moving to Maui to windsurf. And it was only after a year and a half there that I got asked back to try to sail on the 470 in hopes to make the Olympic team.
Oh, wow.
And so that started the Olympic kind of bug.
And so so this is your fifth Olympics. So you've been an Olympian for 20
since I was 4, basically. I date myself. Yeah, the years add up quickly.
Yeah.
So my first Olympics was in 2004 at the Athens Olympic Games.
2004, and then so here we are, 2021. Just the longevity of that is amazing. It shows that you obviously have to really take good care of yourself, and you're eating right, and you're doing the right things to maintain that level of performance, because it's not easy. Now, was there sacrifices though that you've obviously as an Olympian, people think, oh man, it's so amazing, you're traveling all over the world, it's so cool. Were there other things though that you think, oh man, I did miss out on this, but that's the price you pay to be an Olympian?
Absolutely, 100%. And I mean, most of the time, I think people thought that I was off vacationing somewhere because I'd always come back with a tan. Well, that happens regardless if you're in the sunshine or in the wet, in the wild, with the wind. You come back looking fresh, basically. Right. So yes, lots of traveling, not always to the destinations that you think sailing and windsurfing is all about. So no, I didn't go to Hawaii and all sorts of Caribbean islands for sailing, but we sailed a lot in the Northern Hemisphere, in Europe. And sure, there's really great places all over the world to sail in. Sacrifices, yes, of course. Obviously, they're your own choice when you try to go for the Olympics or you have your dream. There will be sacrifices along the way. So, I mean, you miss everything at home. So you don't have a home, or you don't have a paycheck. So um, you're always on the hunt to try to find money because it doesn't flow in a lot of the sports, and it is very costly to travel or be away 7 to 8 months of the year. Traveling, training, equipment, expensive coaching costs a lot. Um, of course, it's tough with relationships. You miss birthdays, weddings. You don't have that same stability,
Right.
but it's an unconventional path, and it's the path I chose. And um, yeah, there are definitely lots of ups and downs, but usually the ups outweigh the downs.
Do you have I guess like when you're doing the circuit, I guess there's a key set of people that you get to know. I mean, you must have some really good friends kind of on the road because you've been traveling for so long and you always get together with them. Do you have like some really close friends that you always look forward to seeing when you're going to destinations or?
Absolutely. And I mean, switching sports sort of didn't help that part. But with windsurfing, I was in windsurfing full time for 8 years. And in the end, or for a couple of years, we had a fantastic group, and it was all international girls. So there wasn't anyone else from Canada that I trained with, but we had a group where it was like the Spanish girl, the Israeli girl, the Hong Kong girl, the Mexican girl, or, girls from all over. And we'd come together and we'd train together both on and off the water. So a lot of times with windsurfing came surfing because it's opposing muscle groups
Right.
and super fun.
Right.
So we all had similar interests, and it was a really great time and super productive and efficient training. And we were a powerhouse team, basically. Um, that always doesn't last forever, though, and people move on, or I changed sports. And so, you do find some people that you gel with well. And um, yeah, it is the traveling road show, or the traveling sailing circus, or what do they call it? The five ring circus.
Right.
So you basically travel across the world and you see the same people, and it's, a lot of times the athletes turn into the coaches, and so people don't leave the scene.
Right. Yeah, it's a huge commitment, right? So when you're doing that kind of commitment, I mean, you're going to see it through to the end, that's for sure. In regards to your training, so when you're not on the water specifically, what are some of the key things that you do to prepare for the water on land?
Yep. So I do a lot of cross training. I always have. And also, well, first of all, windsurfing is extremely physical. So it's often compared with triathletes or triathlon training, because really there are three different kinds of windsurfing. There's light air windsurfing, there's that medium condition or marginal planing windsurfing, and then there's windy windsurfing, or the true windsurfing.
Right.
And so very specific um, physical requirements for each of those, and you have to be able to snap back and forth within a race or in a given moment. So physical fitness is super, super important. Recovery is absolutely key as well. It is full body. It's both endurance and intervals.
Right.
So really, it's like a mishmash of everything. You just have to be fit. Here, especially during COVID times, I have done a lot of running. So a lot of hill running as well, lots of hill sprints. So really doing my endurance. I do a lot of interval, or the sprints, intervals. I do weight training, a lot of body weights and lighter, longer reps or explosive
Right.
things. um, battle ropes, jump squats, all that kind of intense, get the intensity up.
Yeah,
Um,
explosive. So yeah.
explosive stuff. Yeah. I bike a bit, but it's been a lot of running for the most part, and I have an assault bike as well, so
Yeah.
that that
So
helps.
bike, that's the
That's the hard one, yes.
yeah. So so
um,
so and so when you're training that hard, do you have specific protocols for recovery? Because I mean that's so important, for the next training to be recovered properly.
right. So yes, absolutely. And one thing also with the physical training, it's a lot of stuff to help injury prevention. So preventative exercises, opposing muscle groups, and stuff like that. In terms of recovery, I take my nutrition and my hydration seriously. Um, of course, not every single moment, but I do take good care of myself with some supplements as well. I do use some of the Highland supplements like the Mag Phos and the Bio 12. Um, I've been following a book called Roar, um, and it's by a doctor called Dr. Stacy Sims, and basically on female fitness and female physiology and how to best um, enhance your performance for that. And a lot of it is eating like whole foods
Right.
or real food versus just energy gels and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so, especially for coming up to Tokyo, with the heat acclimatization, hydration, all of that, um, I want to make sure that I have that under my control. Um, Ice baths is something that I'm not terribly fond of, but that's a good recovery tool as well.
Right.
I do a lot of rolling, uh, stretching. So I have a routine every day that I do. Um, yeah,
That's
and
good.
everything in moderation.
Excellent. Yeah, I noticed, like, I mean, I remember talking to you previously and, I was asking you about, shakes and stuff like that. You said you like to eat your food versus drink your food, and
Yeah,
which is so wise, really, because, like people just don't realize you just can never, it's just never the same versus eating real food because, you got the fibers and the antioxidants. I mean, nature just does it perfectly. And, even though we always try to improve on it by making things more convenient, you can't replace that whole food concept kind of thing, right? So that's kind of nice to hear. And a good example for people to hear too, because so many people that are so worried about everything that they take, and I even when I'm training people, I tell them, like I said, the basics is just good training fundamentals and healthy recovery principles and eating good. All those extra supplements a lot of times, unless you're an Olympian, might not make that difference. It's just proper training and proper eating and sleeping and all that kind of stuff. Right? That makes
yeah,
it.
absolutely. Sleep super, super important. And for sure, there's a place for, protein shakes and all that, recovery drinks and all of that stuff. Um, and making sure you get it in at a certain time. But, food is food. And I I have to maintain a certain weight or try to be a certain weight for my sport too. So it's not always that you can just eat and eat and eat and eat. So you have to be careful on what you eat and how much you eat. And so I would rather eat than always drink my calories as well.
Right.
So
So when you say weight classes, so you're talking about if you're too heavy, it'll be that much harder. Is that like there's no weight classes, but it'll affect your performance, right? Is that what you're talking about?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. There is no weight maximum or minimum, but the average, there is an ideal weight.
Right.
And I am well above that ideal weight because I am a lot taller than a lot of the girls. And so it's physically impossible for me to get to that certain ideal weight. So I have to try to make it up with fitness or, strength, endurance, what I can. So a coach, one of my old coaches once said, basically, for every pound or every kilo I have more on another girl, I have to pump 10% harder.
Hmm.
So when you do the math of a girl that's 10 kilos lighter, pumping at 100%, how am I supposed to pump at 200%?
Right.
It doesn't work. So yeah.
I never thought. I mean, obviously there's an ideal in every kind of sport, right? That makes a difference. And whether you're a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, yeah, affects all the things in performance. So
yep.
So what are some of your favorite places to train? Like, you've been a lot of different places. Are there some places that you think, yeah, I just love this place?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I like training where it's warm, where the water is warm, and I like windy conditions. So wherever that is in the world, I like that combination. That combination can't be found everywhere, especially not on the Olympic circuit. But Lake Garda in Italy is a wonderful, beautiful place to sail. It reminds me very much of Squamish here at home in BC. So kind of the inflow, outflow winds, the mountains all around. It's spectacular in that place. Squamish is a lot colder though.
Yes.
The water is. Yeah.
Water.
Yeah. There's a lot of really scenic places that I like to sail in for the scenery, but they weren't necessarily the best sailing places. Maui, of course, is always one of my favorites, but not for the Olympic windsurfing. I'd rather go there to do wave sailing or something like that. I've sailed in a variety of places. I mean, it really depends on what you're training for and what kind of places I'd like. But again, warm is always the nice part.
Yeah.
Búzios in Brazil has actually been a really great place to train.
Nice.
I spent a lot of time there.
Yeah, I like warmth myself too. Warm is good.
Yes. Tough to train in Vancouver winters here.
Yes, yeah, that'd be chilly for sure. Now, in the Olympics, you've probably had, or even just throughout lots of competitions that you've been in, you've had highs and lows. What were some of your lows and what were some of your highs? Like, what were some of your toughest moments in competition and some of your, most satisfying?
That opens up a can of worms. The lows, definitely going into London. I was looking pretty good going into London, and we had gear given to us. So it's usually a random draw. And in London, it was basically like, Nikola, this is your gear. So-and-so, this is your gear. So-and-so, this is your gear. And gear varies quite a bit for the windsurfing. And so it is all one design, but there's little variances, and we spend, years trying to figure out which mast, which sail, which fin, which board is good. And, you use your good stuff for the important regattas. Then you get to an event where it's like the Olympics, and it's like, and this is your one set of gear. And my fin, which is the thing that's in the water that determines, like, your track, basically. It was asymmetrical. And so I was really good going one way, and going the other way, I just slipped sideways, basically. It was like spinning out the whole time, and I couldn't keep my lane, nothing. And anyway, in the end, I fought to try to get it changed. It was deemed broken, and I got a new one. And on the first race, first day of the Olympics, the replacement one broke. And so you don't get redress, what they call, you don't get points back for anything that happens like this. So it's just, you suck it up. And so the third fin, I didn't even have to argue to try to get another fin, because they saw that it was broken, and the third fin didn't do anything special either. And so, you train for basically 8 years to try to get to your peak event, and there's nothing you can do.
So they give you, like, so when you go to the Olympics, you're provided the stuff, so you don't even bring your own favorite gear. Like, I mean, that's so random. Yeah, I would have never thought that. I would have thought you would have had your favorite, everything, outfit and this and that, and out you go kind of thing. But to get it randomly, it's such a gamble almost.
Hit and miss. Yeah. And so some people get the gear from the gods,
Right.
and lucky them.
Yeah.
Now going into Tokyo, it's different. So now we bring all our gear
Oh, good.
because I think of all the variances that have happened in the past. So I'm not the only one that's been affected by this. And then of course in Rio, I sailed with a teammate, and unfortunately with the Rio waters, they were quite contaminated, and my teammate got sick during the Olympics. So that was another huge disappointment after 4 years of, pushing, to not be able to show up the same way that you did every other event.
So contaminated waters, I mean, that's something you never ever think about. Like as a regular person, I would think, oh, the water's got to be this pristine, and they probably filtered it and cleaned it, and you just never think of that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, not the case. No.
I mean, when you go to different countries, like, because like sometimes you go to a different country on holidays, and it can really affect your gut. How do you protect yourself from that kind of variant?
Well, eat only cooked food.
Right.
Stay away from anything raw. Always wash your hands. If you get water in your mouth that is, gross from the,
Right.
From the sea, basically spit. It was always spitting it out, trying to get it off of you.
Yeah.
Disinfecting, but basically like just super hygiene aware, because you don't know. Because even the water that comes out of a tap, you don't drink it. You shouldn't brush your teeth with it. And so it's just being hyper vigilant about, when you're in a place where it's iffy, use bottled water for everything. Be
Right.
careful, like don't eat the salads. Just for the 1 week, just eat cooked stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Won't change everything. So, yeah.
So did we get your favorite?
Favorite? I think qualifying for the Olympics has to be probably some of my favorite moments, because each qualification was so ridiculously hard and emotional roller coaster. And so you never know you have the spot until you actually get the spot. So, the first Olympics, obviously, it's a huge deal because it was my first Olympics.
Yeah.
But then after that, I switched sports. And with that switch, I lost most of my support. I was the rogue when I left to a different sport, and, good luck with that one, Nikola.
Right.
And to come out of nowhere and to learn a whole new something and to qualify myself for the Olympics was a massive, it was I don't know, it was awesome because I defeated kind of a lot of odds.
Right.
And so it was a nice prove myself moment that, yeah, I did do it.
Well, so what made, because that is a huge, like for people to switch a discipline in the Olympics, I mean, that's massive. So what made you do that switch? Like what triggered the switch for you?
Well, remember when I said like after university, I worked a little bit and then I moved to Maui.
Yeah.
And I windsurfed in Maui. I thought, I was going to be a professional windsurfer. Absolutely loved it. And then I got pulled back to sailing. And it was like, do I stay in Maui where it's like warm and sunny, the water's warm, all that? And then I moved to Halifax for the summer with 5-degree water.
Yeah.
And sailing a boat with another person, it's slower. There was partner dynamics, all of that stuff. And after 3.5 years, I wanted to do my own thing again. It's not always easy with a teammate, and I really missed windsurfing. And so I wanted to windsurf again. And they actually switched the Olympic windsurfing equipment. So that was the year where they brought a bigger board, a bigger sail. And so I thought, well, with my size and weight, I could probably have a chance at this new windsurfing gear, because before I wasn't the right weight at
Right.
all. So, so basically I was like, well, why not give it a shot?
Cool. Yeah, that's so I can understand, dynamics of, like, say, when you have a partner in a sport. I mean, there's that human factor, which can be good and hard at the same time, depending who you're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
And what they're going through in life and what you're going through in life, and then you combine that all together. It's like, wow, this can be complicated.
Yes, you're married to that person, basically.
Yeah, yeah,
You do everything together. You travel together, you eat together, you train together, you're on the water together, you go back to wherever you live together. And so and that's for like months and months of the year.
that's
So
huge. Yeah.
yeah, it's tough.
So speaking of partners, you got married in August 2019, right?
Yep, yep.
And so now you're going to another Olympics. So how do you find that balance between now being married and doing the Olympics?
Well, he was the one that gave me the nudge to go do it.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, it started off first as a joke. Yeah, you should go train for the Olympics. I think it was because I was like unmotivated to go running for half an hour, and he's like, "Come on!" And so it became a joke, and then it became, "Well, why don't you look into it?" And then it was actually on our honeymoon that I booked my flights to leave on my training trip a week after we came back from our honeymoon.
Oh, wow.
And so basically, it was like I was in a totally different mental headspace. I was more than just the athlete that I was for so many years. My identity didn't revolve around the Olympics anymore. I was in a better place. I had my own career. I had my life. And so this was supposed to be a positive experience, something different than what I'd had before.
Right.
And so, yes, it took me away for 2 months. So I was away for 2 months, came home for a week or 10 days, and then I went away again for a month. And, you know, the whole comeback was in 2019, like projected to be short and sweet. Olympics coming up within the next 8 or 9 months,
Wow.
short and sweet, in and out, have a great experience, positive, all of that.
Yeah.
And then COVID came. So
Right. And extended a
um,
year.
which extended it a year.
Yeah.
And so the 3 months that I was away from home became, now we're both working from home
Right.
24/7 basically. And so, yeah, it turned to one, or fully turned. Um, but he's super, super supportive. And, you know, he's part of my training partner. He trains with me.
Yeah.
And obviously he can't come to the Olympics anymore to support me in that sense. But
So he can't come to the Olympics?
no, there's no foreign spectators allowed.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I mean, the COVID situation is not a good thing
Right. Right.
for any place in the world, but especially for Japan. They're not vaccinated yet, or 1% is vaccinated. It's only going to be the athletes and coaches or hanger-oners that come into the
Right.
Olympics, very quarantined, and no foreign spectators. Everything's still it's changing on a daily basis, basically.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's just a moving target at this point, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah,
At least when you're on
super
the water, you don't have
unfortunate.
to wear a mask or anything, right? Or do you?
When we're there,
You're on the water? When you're on the water, you're
um, while we're doing our sport, no, our coaches and stuff have to wear masks, and then I
right.
believe on land,
You have
everything
to
will be masked and
wear. Right.
segregated and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of tracking and testing and everything like that. So we're not actually, like, we will not be able to, like, enter Japan, as in we will never be able to go to a restaurant or to go shopping in Japan. We
So
will be shuttled from the airport to where we're staying to our training venue to hotel, back and forth until we leave.
So in that regards, it will be a very different experience because you're not going to have that mingling experience with the culture and the people and
Yes.
yeah. So
Which is really something that was one of the biggest draws for me to go back to the Olympics, was because, you know, the Olympics in Tokyo were going to be absolutely fantastic.
right. There's another example though where like sometimes we think we got so much control in our lives, and you can just see how things can change just like that. And you have
Yep.
to adapt accordingly and do your thing, right? So
Yep. Yep. So it has been tough because obviously with our quarantine restrictions here in BC and stuff, you know, I'm not traveling and I prefer my health over trying to go to competitions in Europe. And there are plenty of competitions going on in Europe, and
right,
sailors are traveling to and from all of them, but they don't have the same restrictions within Europe as we do here,
right,
for quarantining when you get back.
right.
And also a 10-hour flight or something like that. You know, it's a bit different. So training by myself here at home is obviously not the best,
Right.
but I will make it work for what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, you got to do the best, and that's the whole thing when you're training at the level you are. You just got to do whatever you need to do to be ready for the event coming up, and whatever it takes. Which is amazing. So any wise words for people, like, so for people that want to be fitter or want to do better in life in general, like, do you have, like, because I know you do some coaching, I know you do kind of like life coaching and things like that, right, with people, and I'm sure
I'm
you
a
do
business
coaching,
coach, yeah.
and you're a speaker, and I mean you do so many things. What are some of the key takeaways for people that want to do better in life, whether it's fitness or health, or do you have any wise words for them?
Well, I do have a couple sayings. Um, One of my favorite quotes is doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. And kind of alongside with that is the only thing harder to swallow than failure is regret.
Right.
And along the way of my journey, I made a motto for myself. And the motto is dare to dream, dare to achieve, and dare to succeed. And so it is risky. It is scary to go off and do something, to put your mind to something, or even if it's, you know, wanting to run a 5K race or something like that, or just even doing a 5K run. For some people, that is a huge thing. And so it's like daring yourself to dream for that, daring yourself to try. You have to take the first step in order to try to get there. And then daring yourself, it is scary also to succeed. What am I going to do now if I, you know, get to where I had wanted to go? So,
Is it tougher, like, because I know, like, when you're at a certain level, like, it seems almost easier to, well, as you're working towards it, but once you're there, it's like, like, is it tougher now, just maintaining that, like, and because now the expectations are there from people?
yes and no. And this is where a lot of mindfulness comes in, and like the meditation or the visualization, or um, really it's about um, focusing on the process, not the result.
Right.
So I talk about this with a lot of my clients as well, is like, say if I'm in a race and I'm, say, in third position halfway through the race, and I start thinking, if I come in third, da, 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 I'm gonna, like, you know, my points are gonna go up for this and this, I'm gonna qualify for this. And, you know, my head's already thinking I finished in third.
Right.
Meanwhile, I'm not concentrating on what I'm supposed to be doing
Yeah.
to continue racing and stay in that position, while other people who are focused are charging along and they start beating me.
Right.
And so at the end of the race, I come in 15th and I'm like, what happened? And it's because I didn't focus on the process. I
Right.
focused on the result.
Right.
So if you want to get somewhere, it's like there's all these little steps that you take along the way to get to where you want to get to. But you can't jump because it's going to
Right.
come and bite you.
you can't skip steps.
You can't really skip
No
steps.
shortcuts, right?
I wish there was for some things, but no.
Well, some people try to take shortcuts, but a lot of times, like you say, they're doing bad things, right? I mean, when you're not doing shortcuts, you're like, I mean, the thing I just learned recently, because I take this course because I wanted to do this powerlifting competition, it's just about even the ethics in sports. And I didn't realize actually how involved that was, and how many little factors and there's so much involved. I was like wow, like whether it's your supplements or somebody's doping, and like it's just like it's a big deal. So, yeah.
Yep. There's lots of things people can do to cheat, which isn't a good thing.
No, and in the end, it's got to eat them, I think, mentally too, right? I mean, there's something about always doing things right that where you sleep good at night, and like it's just the way it should be in everything in life. Doing it because it's the right thing to do, not because it's going to get you ahead for the wrong reasons. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's super. I mean, I super appreciate you taking the time. Any last minute things that you want to say, like to a general audience? Like, I mean, our audience is basically just a whole wide range of people, and fitness levels and success levels. I mean, but like I say, you deal with all sorts of different people. So,
yeah, I mean, one thing I guess is enjoy it or have fun if you're trying to do anything, whether it's sport related or business related. Finding some joy in it, or finding, not everything is easy. It's definitely challenging, but trying to find the good parts in it and finding balance. I think balance is so absolutely key. And that's something that I'm taking with me to Tokyo, which I didn't have as much going into my other Olympics. And so with that, I think I'm in a better mental state of mind. So we'll see how that pans out.
Right.
But I feel better for it. So.
But it's cool because I can see, like, for example, I remember even when the first time I met you, like, you just have a joy about you. I think that's just, the kind of person you are, because you're always smiling, and it seems like, you do enjoy what you do, which is so many people out there don't enjoy what they do. And then when it comes to balance, you've obviously, I mean, you've had some type of balance. I mean, the fact that you've had the longevity that you've had in the sport, and 3 different sports within, that the Olympics, I mean, that shows that you've had some type of balance along the way, because or else you wouldn't have survived, this long journey. So that's, right. So you've had some, but now, you're probably a bit wiser now, because each time I guess you're learning to balance it a little bit better.
Yes, and for sure, I had to learn that, and every, teammates have different balances. They can spend 12 hours a day at the sporting venue and work on it versus I couldn't. And so right. I know I always need something else. And so I need, me being an executive coach now and helping other people. It's like, that is also my balance. It's not just work. It is work, but I really enjoy my work. And that gives me the energy to be able to, do the things that I want to do for training. And likewise, that training gives me the energy so that I could be there for my clients. And so, yeah.
I think that's a cool thing, because, like, when you help other people, like some people see that as work, but when you do it and you love it, it actually brings you energy, because it's so, there's a satisfaction in seeing other people do well at what they're trying to achieve, and that just rolls over to your own life. So I can relate Absolutely. To that. Yeah.
And then you can probably relate to it being an athlete too, is even though workouts can be extremely hard and a lot of times you don't want to do them, the energy you get from it and the feeling you get after, the being able to sleep better, or what you eat, the recovery, like, you feel better and it gives you time back. It gives you energy.
Yeah. So, I always tell people too, like, because sometimes, like you say, sometimes you feel kind of, I don't feel like working out, but like I always tell people that don't let how you feel stop your workout, because sometimes when you feel not so great, you end up having a super amazing workout. So your feelings can be really deceiving in regards to your performance. So you go with it anyway, because sometimes you're feeling great and you have a lousy workout. So there's no rhyme or reason to it. You just got to do it no matter what, kind of thing.
Yep. I think
Awesome. I mean,
game changing.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I totally love the fact that you put some time aside. I really appreciate it, and I'm so glad I stopped beside you on an Air Canada flight one day coming home, and we've kept in touch, as we've kind of gone along too.
I know. It's part of the whole balance thing.
Yes, for sure. And hopefully when this whole, COVID thing settles down, we can actually meet up again and have a drink and celebrate Tokyo, right?
One day, for sure.
So then I can be your husband, and we'll go as a couple and celebrate life.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me this morning.
Yeah, so
nice to see you again.
Yes, yeah, that's one thing that's, I guess, COVID's kind of done. I mean, one thing it's taught us is that, because it kind of brought us to more basic stuff, it makes you realize the important things in life. Really, you start filtering out the things that aren't important. That's what COVID actually has done, which really has been a good thing. Like all that traveling, sometimes the downtime is actually really good. Like it grounds you to be home a little bit more, and so that's what COVID has done, I guess, on the positive side for us, for sure.
Absolutely. And your garden probably is in the best shape of its
life. Yes.
Mine too. Yes, that's my mindfulness. That's my Zen place.
So get your hands dirty once in a while, right? Get in that dirt.
Pretty much every day, yes. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, again, thanks for your time, and
You're welcome.
we will touch base again soon. And
You're very welcome.
And I wish you the best in Tokyo. I mean, we'll probably be touch base a little bit before then, but I know you're going to be in total focus mode in the next little while, and so we're super excited for you to do your fifth Olympics.
Thank you. And again, thanks for having me this morning.
No problem. Anytime. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.